Let's talk about negotiation. For a lot of us, that word can bring up a little bit of anxiety. But what if I told you it's not some dark art? It's a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned, it can be mastered. And it all starts with having the right playbook. That's exactly what we're going to build today.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You're trying to buy a car, or you're in a job interview negotiating that salary, your heart's beating a little faster, the stakes feel really high, and you're just wondering, am I getting a good deal here? Am I leaving money on the table? What is the secret?
Well, here's the thing. The secret is that most people walk into these situations totally blind. They're just winging it, hoping for the best. But the pros, the really great negotiators, they have a map. They see the whole landscape before the conversation even starts. And today, we're going to give you that map.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll cover the secret framework behind it all. Then, we'll help you find your personal source of power, something called a BATNA. After that, we'll look across the table to figure out what they're thinking. Then we'll map out the actual deal zone, the ZOPA. And finally, we'll put it all together so you have a winning strategy every time.
Okay, so what is this big secret? It's really simple. It's knowing that a great negotiation isn't about being the loudest or the most aggressive person in the room. It's not about luck. It's about seeing a hidden strategic framework that is underneath every single deal you will ever make.
And that entire framework, that whole secret, it's built on just two core ideas. They're called BATNA and ZOPA. I know, they sound like weird acronyms, but trust me, if you can get a handle on just these two things, you are already way ahead of most people you'll ever negotiate with.
So let's start with the big one, the single most important concept in all of negotiation. This is the thing that gives you confidence, it gives you leverage, it gives you power. It's time to understand your BATNA.
BATNA. It stands for your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Now, what does that actually mean? It's not just a fuzzy idea. It's the single best, most realistic, and actionable thing you will do if you stand up and walk away from the table. It's your plan B. Before you even start talking, you need to know exactly what that is.
And this is a super important point. A BATNA is not a wish. Saying, oh, I won't accept less than 50 grand for my car, that's just a goal. A real BATNA is saying, my neighbor Bob has already offered me $48,000 in cash for this car, and he'll buy it next week. See the difference? One's a hope, the other is a rock-solid, actionable plan.
And this is why it's your superpower. First, that $48,000 offer from your neighbor, that becomes your reservation value. It's your walkaway point. You will not accept 1 penny less. Second, it gives you incredible leverage because you don't need this deal to work out. You have a great alternative. And finally, it makes the decision-making process so easy. Is their offer better than $48,000? No? Okay, then I'm walking. Simple as that.
Okay, so you know your own superpower. But remember, negotiation is a two-player game. The person sitting across from you, they have a BATNA too. So your next job is to become a detective and figure out what it is.
Seriously, you got to put on your detective hat here. You're listening, of course, but you're also looking for clues. You're trying to figure out what their alternatives are. How badly do they actually need this deal? What happens on their end if you get up and leave?
You can almost always spot a weak BATNA if you know what to look for. Are they a little too eager? Have they already sunk a ton of time and energy into this process? Are they the ones who keep calling you back to the table? These are all telltale signs that they don't have great alternatives, and that gives you a little more leverage.
And of course, the opposite is true. If they seem kind of uninvested, maybe they casually mention other offers they're considering, or they're just really firm on their key terms, well, they're signaling to you that they have a strong BATNA. They can afford to lose this deal, and that is crucial intelligence for you.
So you know your BATNA, you've made an educated guess about their BATNA, now we can finally start to draw the map. We can use this information to see the actual territory where a deal can happen, and this territory is called the ZOPA. ZOPA just stands for the Zone of Possible Agreement. Really, it's just the overlap between your walkaway point and their walkaway point. It's that sweet spot where any deal you make is better for both of you than just walking away with nothing.
Let's make this really simple. Let's say you're selling something, and your absolute bottom line, your reservation value from your BATNA is $50,000. But through your detective work, you think the buyer's absolute max is, let's say, $30,000. Uh-oh. Wait, let's flip that. Your reservation value as a seller is $30,000 and their max as a buyer is $50,000. That range between $30K and $50K, that is the ZOPA. Any number in there is a win for both of you.
Okay, but this brings up a really good question, one that happens all the time. What if your bottom line is $50,000, but their absolute maximum is only $40,000? What happens when there's no overlap?
Is the negotiation just dead? Well, not always.
You've got 3 strategic moves you can make here. First, you can try to expand the pie. Maybe you can't agree on price, but you can throw in other things of value, better payment terms, a warranty, extra service. Second, you can go back to the drawing board and try to improve your own BATNA. Find a better alternative. And third, you have to be ready to walk away. Honestly, sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to say no deal.
All right, we've gone through the core concepts. We know our BATNA, we've thought about theirs, and we've mapped out the ZOPA. Now let's put it all together into a simple, step-by-step playbook you can use for anything. Here it is, your 5-step playbook. Step 1, before anything else, know your concrete BATNA. Step 2, from that, calculate your absolute final reservation value. Step 3, put on your detective hat and estimate their BATNA and their reservation value. Step 4, figure out if there's a ZOPA, an overlap. And if there is, step 5, start strategizing how to get the best possible deal for you within that zone.
And as you're using this playbook, just try to avoid these classic mistakes. Please don't confuse a hope with a real plan. Always do your homework on the other side. Don't reveal your hand, your BATNA, too early, especially if it's not very strong. And remember, the first offer they make that's inside the ZOPA, that's just the beginning of the conversation, not the end.
Look, if you walk away with just one single idea today, I hope it's this one. So much of winning a negotiation happens before you even get to the table. The time you invest in researching, preparing, and strengthening your alternatives. That is the single best investment you can possibly make.
And that's really the whole point of all this. You're not negotiating blind anymore. You have the map. You understand where your real power comes from. You have a method for reading the other side, and you can actually see the terrain where a great deal can be made.
You have the playbook. You know the strategy. So the only real question left is, what's the next negotiation in your life, big or small, that you're going to go out and absolutely master?